I'm joined by Emily Baumgaertner of the Los Angeles Times. She is the medical reporter. Where do I find you this morning, Emily?
Good morning. I'm out here in Culver City, California.
Well, good morning to you. Thanks for getting up early. I just had a great conversation with Dr. Adalja of the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security. A lot of calm there. What are you seeing in your reporting about whether or not Americans are unduly or unnecessarily concerned about coronavirus, or are they too indifferent to it?
It's a great question. I think we're seeing lots of reports across the country of masks selling out, people being very concerned. From the looks of it right now, there's really no reason to be doing anything other than washing your hands. That's not to say that this will not become a greater concern in the United States, but right now, with 5 cases and a very strong public health system, it's not something that every American should be worried about nearly as much as they're worried about catching the seasonal flu.
Are people canceling their travel plans to China in your reporting?
As far as I can tell, that's being done both voluntarily and involuntarily. I'm sure you've heard about some of the commercial flights being canceled. And according to travel advisories coming out of the federal government, in many cases it makes sense, particularly for Wuhan province. Yes, we are seeing that indeed.
Now, I made a list, and I went over it with Chuck Todd, of winners and losers should domestic transfer occur in the United States. The indoor things and people win. Amazon, UPS, Netflix, Big Pharma, TV, radio, Google, Apple. The losers would be outdoor things and crowds, malls, sporting events, retail, politics, people going door to door. Have you begun to see any indication of those sorts of winners and losers sorting themselves out in the United States? Or are we still on standby for a domestic-to-domestic transmission?
I absolutely believe that the winners you listed are absolutely winners already in this situation. I'm not sure that the losers have taken their spot on the rankings yet. I think that, in many of these situations, we do see situations when authorities do ask people to avoid public spaces and avoid public gatherings. We've certainly seen that in China already, and we have seen that in the United States in the past. Again, we just aren't at that point yet in the U.S. where you're going to see people hiding in their houses.
Emily Baumgaertner, how do you believe the Chinese response has been? Do you trust the news? I read the South China Morning Post. I read I read everything I can. I just don't know what I can trust from the PRC.
Right now, it seems like the information coming out of China is better than what we saw during SARS. As I'm sure you're aware, in 2002 to 2003, the information regarding the contacts, tracing, the case counts, all of those things were incredibly low compared to reality. And the Chinese government ultimately came out and said that those numbers had not been representative. So it appears that things are going better this time, and the WHO and their researchers have been welcomed into the country. That being said, there is always a question of whether there's a disconnect in information from the local provinces to the central government in China. So most officials will agree that the case counts you're seeing are probably a bit lower than what's true.
I'm talking with Emily Baumgaertner, the medical reporter of the Los Angeles Times. Follow her on Twitter at Emily_Baum, B-A-U-M. She's really good at this. I asked Dr. Adalja what people should read. He noted The Coming Plague by Laurie Garrett and The Deadliest Enemy, another big book on viruses. How are you getting your reporting? Who are you talking to? What are your sources?
Right now, I'm talking mostly to folks at institutions across the United States and in China who have a history of tracing and modeling epidemics. There are a lot of mathematical modelings that can actually show you where this is likely to go and how quickly it's likely to go there. Of course, there are complications that experts at Johns Hopkins and Georgetown and the CDC are running into, such as an unlikely denominator. So if they don't know how many cases there are, it's hard to see how quickly it's spreading and how efficiently transmission will occur if it were to occur in the United States.
What's your reporting on the best estimate of the R0 for this virus at this point?
Right now, I'm hearing 2.6 pretty consistently. Again, R0 is based a lot on the denominator. So for those who are unaware, R0 is a representation of the reproductive rate, or how many people will be infected by every one case of this disease. So for something like measles, you're going to infect 12 to 18 people. It's incredibly infectious. With the seasonal flu, it can be as low as 1. And if a disease has an R0 lower than 1, it's actually going to peter out. But with something like this, we're looking at probably somewhere between 2 and 3.5. So it means that cases are continuing to rise, certainly.
1 minute. Give us the worst case, not World War Z, but what do you think is the worst case for the United States, Emily?
Sure. Realistically, the worst case is that it continues to spread out of control. We see human-to-human transmission sustaining itself in the United States. And if you play that out for months and years, what we're talking about is a situation where this becomes something that circulates regularly and widely around the world, including the United States. That's what we saw with H1N1, the swine flu in 2009, and now you're seeing that come around the world every single year. This coronavirus could absolutely, realistically join the ranks of things that we are constantly battling for decades, and it's something that we don't have our vaccine against yet. So it is a real, real threat.
Emily Baumgaertner, thank you, medical reporter for the Los Angeles Times. Follow her on Twitter at Emily_Baum, B-A-U-M. Thank you, Emily.